Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken the World. Today, for our Awaken Sunday Live Q&A, the only lie in our lives is the one lie we tell ourselves. Today, Sunday, January 27th, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you are here live on the Awaken the World channel with my lovely wife, Kelly, hiding off screen as she always does. Hey, if you haven't seen it, there's a little tiny video we did to say happy birthday to one of our members, and Kelly's actually in the background. I think it's about the most that you'll see her in the video. Jackie, so nice to see you. Feels like it's been a long time since we've seen you, and wonderful to see you again. We truly do love our Awaken the World family, as we love our whole human family. And, you know, we're going to talk about a number of things today. There's a bunch of things to talk about. And this is all good. This is all really good. And oh, yes, I do see the Silly Kelly. And as I said this morning, I love the Silly Kelly. I mean, my wife can be a total flake, and that's just awesome. We have the best laughs over it. I mean, last night we were doing yoga, and I tell you, the two of us were laughing so hard, it was hard to stay in positions because we just kept laughing about it and laughing. And, you know, my wife and I were talking about spirit animals, you know, and I myself am a tiger, but my spirit animal has always been a great white owl. And I was deep in the Brazilian rainforest on a shamanic journey, drinking what's known as the soma, which is a highly hallucinogenic, dream-traveling shamanic concoction. And after 3 days of ceremony and picking the plants and learning how to prepare them and partaking in all of that and fasting and meditating, I took part in the soma. And I woke up 100 miles from where I had drank the soma, and I was lying untouched in the middle of the jungle. And there were two large snowy white owl feathers lying across me. Now, there's no way those feathers could have materialized off of a bird. That was I took the feathers back. I even had them verified that they were indeed. And when I tried to explain to the guy where I found them, he did not believe me. But my wife and I were talking about this, and then my wife innocently asked me, you know, so what do you think my spirit animal is? And of course, my first thought was, well, of course, sweetie, it's the dodo bird. Oh, you know, don't give me an opening. I guess that's rule number one. And Jackie, trying to figure out where you fit in, learning to accept what is, awesome. That's awesome. And believe me, you do fit in. You really do. You are a one-of-a-kind creation, just as Kelly is, just as I am, just as each of you are. Each of us has a gift to offer. And this is part of the big lie, you know, about what we feel about ourselves. So enough of the stories. Let's get down to business today. The big lie. Well, let's finish off with desires of the mind, you know, because Kelly and I were talking about the desires of the mind, and I know that Cindy and a few other members were struggling a little bit with it, and I admit I can get a little long-winded. But it finally hit upon me in a conversation with Kelly the night before last. And what I had said to her was this: any desire that comes about through thought, the issue with human beings is we're always expecting to take one half. We want the yin without the yang. We want the pleasure without the pain. We want the happiness without the sadness. We want the riches without the poor. We want we always want what we see as the good thing, the easy thing, the nice thing. And that's the problem with our desires. We forget that as long as we're living in this realm of duality, it's perfectly okay to have a desire for a new car, as long as you're willing to accept the other side of having a new car. Because everything in this physical world exists by very nature of its duality. Right? We don't experience cold without understanding what warmth is. We wouldn't have up if we didn't have a sense of down thanks to gravity. Our entire existence here is reflective. It really is. And it's not, our issue is, of course, we think it's reflecting everything else back into us, but no, everything is reflecting. We are the reflection. I am the reflector and the reflectee, both the mirror and the mirrors. Desires of the mind, any desire that comes out of your thought is perfectly okay if you want to fulfill it. Go ahead. It's not going to bring you what you thought it would. That's guaranteed. And as I've said to Kelly, it's okay to have a desire as long as you're willing to take the other half of it. Because everything in this physical world comes with both halves intact. In every sadness is happiness. In every joy is depression. In every anger is fear. In every acceptance is separation. We exist in a world of duality where the duality defines it. And we learn to ride in that middle space. And take the best out of what is. So we will lie to ourselves that the desire that we think we have, pay close attention, think as in we're thinking it, thought. We will take that desire and we will convince ourselves that that is somehow going to satisfy something that we're looking for. That's one of the first big lies. Nothing you go out there looking for exterior to yourself is going to fulfill you. It's what's happening within that offers fulfillment. And everything that's happening without is speaking to you about that looking inwards, about finding that fulfillment within. And, Kelly has said this to me. She says, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Just sit, meditate? I said, no. Whatever comes into your awareness, act upon it naturally. Choose to do what you love, what enlightens you, what brings passion and fire to your being, what lets your creativity ignite. That is your gift to the world. Allow that to be your desire. Not a desire for a cushy life, not a desire for a fancy new car. You may get those things, and I'm not saying don't desire them, but if you're going to desire that car, you have to be willing to desire the car payment, the insurance payments, the rising cost of gasoline, the cost of maintenance, the way you're going to feel about it when someone scratches it, dents it, or runs into it, or it gets stolen, and also the way you're going to feel about it when you lose your job or the money to pay for it and you have to kiss the car goodbye for far less than you paid for, leaving you in debt. As long as you're willing to accept all of those possibilities, because they all exist within your desire to have the car, you may just not be paying attention to them, but they're there. You're just turning a blind eye to them. Jennifer, nice to see you. You know, oh, you don't have to watch that much of the replay. I've been babbling a lot. No, really. So, this is it about these desires that we have. The desire, and this is that big lie, that the desires of the mind, that the desires of our thought processes are going to fulfill us in some way. Now, I'm not saying all of them, okay? Because there are some desires that do fulfill us. Those desires, though, don't stem from the mind. They stem from a source of emotion. And you notice I've always talked to you about the difference between feelings and emotion. And we're going to talk about why I keep saying it like I'm stoned. Emotion. Feelings, of course, are a product of the mind. We think, and if our thinking is in line with the truth of our being, if it's in line with the cosmic truth, the truth of our existence, our body in response to that, because our body as an energetic emanation of our higher being lives in truth. Far more truth than we do at an egoic level, let me tell you. Far, far more. Your body's energetic field lives in perfect truth, in full awareness of the divine aspect of the being that is manifesting it. It's only you who don't. And we're working on that right now. So your body has this amazing alarm system that we call feelings. Think good thoughts, good feelings emerge as a vibratory response to you being in alignment with truth. Think thoughts that are not in alignment with the truth of your being, thoughts that are not in alignment with your higher self, thoughts that are not in alignment with cosmic reality. And you'll begin to feel bad. We love having you here too, Jackie. We love having you all here. My wife and I think of you, we speak of you, and we include you in our thoughts and our prayers and our meditations at all times, as we do our entire human community. This is what we need for each other. Sorry, almost knocked my coffee cup over. My hands tend to splay around too a bit. So, that really takes care of the big lie number one, right? Big lie number one, our desires are going to fulfill us. The feelings which are generated from our mind, and our body generates that feeling in response, are there as signals. Yep, you're on the right track. No, you're heading off in a direction you don't need to go. Our emotions and our true desires well from within. They precede thought. We find ourselves already in action. That's why I say emotion, energy in motion. The true energy of our being, the truth of our being, the magnificence of our being, literally motivating us in the physical realm before we're consciously aware of it. And then we begin to develop thoughts. But the thoughts are just catching up. We're already in motion to help that person. We're already in motion to make that phone call or do that thing we just felt compelled to do. And then we generate thoughts about it. Look at your desires closely. The desires that arise out of your mind. It's okay to have them as long as you're willing to take the good with the bad, because they both come hand in hand. They cannot be separated. This is what is meant by learning to walk on that middle path. In full understanding that as much as you're going to see rain, you must see sun and drought. The two dichotomies will always be here in the physical realm. Each is inherent within the other, as the yin and yang teaches us. Big lie number 2. And, I said the one big lie, and these are like lies within that one big lie. And we're going to get there. Big lie number 2 is that you are not enough as you are. And I'm not talking about as you are at the very best you can be, in the perfect dream world you wish to be in. I'm talking about right here, right now, at this very moment, you are perfect. You are far more than enough. It's true. Listen to your gut when I say that you are perfect. Right now, in the mindset you're in the position you're in the environment you're in the situation you find yourself in, surrounded by the people, whatever it is, whatever's going on right now with you and around you, it is perfect, and you are enough. Your higher self that looks through the eyes of this magnificent manifested energy body matrix we would call the human body, which we think that we are and we are not. It knows what you are capable of. It knows what the collective of you truly is. And it has no fear and no worry and no concern for your well-being. Why? Because it knows that you're perfectly safe, perfectly okay, and that you have this. And I kid you not, the moment you popped out of your mother's womb, you were enough. You are not the sum of your experiences. As I said during that short video, and we're going to get on to that for the 28 days of February, 28 days to a new consciousness. It's going to be little things like spending a day and everything that occurs, everything that you experience, everything that you see, understanding that you are more than that. Not enough as you are, the second lie within the lie. Thank you, Jennifer. And it is heavily perpetrated by religion, especially by Christianity, unfortunately, that somehow you were born into this world defective to start with. That a creator who knows all and sees all and knows every minute of your entire existence made you defective to start with, thereby condemning you to hell before you even got out of the womb. And then a whole bunch of doctrine on top of that that speaks that you have no personal power. And let me tell you, if you are I'll 3 lifetimes ago I was a woman. And when I came back 2 lifetimes ago, the first question I had for my higher self was, why am I a man this time? Because I finally graduated to being a woman. And then I understood. It came to me out of the blue. I'm back to being a man in these last 2 lives to speak for women. Because if you are a woman and you have come out of a heavily influenced Western religious background, you have been pre-programmed that you are not enough, and that unless you marry someone who will care for you and somehow gift you with a family and gift you with some level of security and gift you with all the things that some guy is going to offer you, you are not enough. And this is one of the biggest lies that we continue to perpetrate upon women across the planet. You know, I fought alongside some of the first women who came into the armed forces over in Europe. And we were ahead of the curve compared to the Americans when it came to letting women in, that's for sure. And I got to tell you, guys, you can't do half of what a woman can do. A woman can prioritize multiple targets in a live fighter aircraft three-dimensional space. A man, he's lucky if he can hold on to the whereabouts of two. A woman can take more pain. A woman can take pain that would kill you as a man. Women truly embody that which we need to become closer to on all levels. And I'm not talking about women who have followed the road to manhood, trying to compete in this patriarchal, man-driven world. All of you women out there, you are enough. As a matter of fact, you're so much more than enough that the world needs badly what you have. We really do. These are all lies within the big lie. We actually haven't quite got to the big lie yet, but we're making progress. Bear with me, I'm having a sip of coffee. So here it is. This is it. This is where it all comes from. The big lie we tell ourselves, from whence all other lies stem, is that I am separate. Right? We all believe, or have believed, that we're alone in our heads. That there's nothing else there that's catching on to what's going on. Religion would teach us perhaps that there is a God figure, a father figure who's listening in. But a lot of fear and guilt comes out of that sort of relationship, doesn't it? Because you still feel separate, but now you're separate and afraid, or you're guilty because of what's been going on in your head. You know, I remember as a young altar boy going to confession in the Catholic Church. That was the biggest thing for me. If God was inside of my head, I really couldn't leave the confession booth and come there once every couple of weeks. I pretty much just better, get a sleeping bag and lay outside the door. The big lie is separation. The first level of separation that unfortunately has been perpetrated by religion as well is cosmic separation. That we are cosmically separated from the source of us. That source resides in a far off place, an unreachable place, a place only reachable, if you're fortunate, by death. And since we personally haven't experienced death, in my case I have, and others have, but we're talking in general, okay? You don't die until you die, right? You're not graveyard dead until you're truly graveyard dead. That's the only way to close that cosmic separation. And a lot of people have been brought up believing in this, and a lot of people, that's what they feel. They live in that space, feeling separate from the source of themselves, the source of all that is. That separation, of course, as above, so below, it trickles down. Because if you have a true sense of connectedness with that sea of consciousness, with the higher truth of your existence, with your higher self, all other separation will vanish. Below cosmic separation, we have family separation. And you know, the same dynamic that separates a family is the same dynamic that separates one country against another. It's the same egoic structure. We don't own it individually. It's a collective structure of humanity. It doesn't belong to one, because in reality there isn't one. And that collective structure is the same structure that allows those who would normally love and care for each other to now separate one from another within that family. And that can be the human family. That can be the United States family versus their family members on the other side of the border. It can be Kelly's children and her mother and Kelly. It can be you and the issues you face with your family. That separation, that feeling of separation, isn't real. Yet I understand how real it feels. I do, because I've been there on every level. And look at the dysfunction that comes out of that false feeling of separation. I've seen the suffering it's caused Kelly. I've seen a grandchild who now for 4 years has not had the wondrous opportunity to know its grandmother, Kelly. Has missed out on her amazing teaching style and her love for music and her creativity and her beautiful piano. Never mind missing out playing with the tiger. And then, of course, we have societal separation, and this feeds right into each other because this is no different yet again. We separate ourselves from by color, by creed, by language, by anything imaginable. We will separate ourselves. This is the big lie. That separation can ever exist. You know, Kelly keeps saying to me, I wish I had a relationship with my children and my mother. And I said, well, you do have a relationship with them. It's just not the one you want. Even now, in the apparent separation, there is no separation. We come now to the one that we use over and over again every day. And this is the separation of shadow and light. And we do this first within our own being. And this is the source of our judgments based on that separation. We segment our own being right down the middle. And we say, okay, over here, this is my higher self, that wants to serve others, wants to meditate, all the things I see as good. And over on this side, well, there's the soldier guy who would put a bullet through your head if he had to, no problem. And there's the the guy who sometimes just wants to pop someone in the nose, and the shadow side, the darkness, the stuff that I don't want. This is a separation that we do within our own being. We try to take that yin and yang that we are, and we try to rip it in half. And we say, okay, I want the white side. And then what do you do with the dark side? You try and throw it out. Most often you bury it, or you hide it. You refuse to look at it. You may think that you successfully have ripped that yin and yang apart, and that you got away with the white piece in your hand. It's a lie. It's an illusion. You can't separate yourself that way. You can't separate that yin and yang. You can't separate the duality of our existence in this physical plane, in the plane of duality. You have only one choice: to accept that the shadow and the light are both from the same source. And therefore, they are only expressions of the one source. The shadow must be loved as much as the light in order to remove the illusion that it is the shadow. That's why fighting against what we perceive as darkness only builds more darkness. Do not deny what you would perceive as the shadow and the light within yourself. Understand that the source is the same. One of our members had posted regarding the murder of a sibling, and how, although she does not feel hate for the murderer, she has yet to be able to feel love. And I had written a response, and one part of that response was, can you love the divine being manifesting that egoic personality? Because what you perceiving as darkness is the shadow and the light are all part of that same energy. This was illustrated beautifully in the Clone Wars animated series by George Lucas, and it is available on Netflix. And if you go deep into the seasons, there are some episodes there where Luke Skywalker and Ben Kenobi and Ahsoka, who is Anakin Skywalker's Padawan learner, apprentice Jedi, they are drawn off for a rendezvous in deep space, and they are taken into this three-dimensional, sort of pyramid on top, and then a reflected of a pyramid on the bottom, like a diamond. And there is the light and the darkness, and then the Father from whence both arise. And lean into the darkness, right? The darkness isn't darkness. It's a perception of darkness. Another good episode that comes to mind, the original Star Trek, Captain Kirk, in a freak transporter accident, becomes split into two beings. One half of him is all the goody-goody stuff, and one half is all the dark. And guess what? The dark half is nuts, and the goody-goody part of them can't function at all. It takes the reintegration to make him whole again, to integrate our perception of the light and darkness within ourselves, and thereby change our perceptions. For in truth, there is no darkness within you. In truth, you are not separate ever. You are not separate from me, from any other human being, from God, that sea of consciousness. You are not separate from a flower. Even at a physical level, when we step into, I'm breathing the atoms that were inside of you at one time. Parts of us are interchanging all the time. Let go of the idea that you are separate. For in truth, there is no separation. And this is where it comes into the last little part of our discussion today, and that is looking past the light and the darkness. Understanding that everything in our physical realm is a matter of perception. And that it isn't so much occurring outside ourselves as it's occurring inside of ourselves. Now, I know that's hard to accept when you consider some of the ramifications of not paying attention and walking out in front of a bus. But of course, the whole of it ultimately is illusion. You cannot die. You cannot be harmed. What sort of perception, because this is pretty meaningless stuff if we can't take something home to actually put into practice, right? We can look at our desires and we can make ourselves aware that we must accept, as the yin and yang always reminds us, the darkness within the light. So if we really feel something is going to bring us pleasure, we just have to be willing to accept the pain that may come along with it. We can also learn to see past what we would see as bad and understand instead how it serves us. There's only two ways to really know how to grow. And that is choosing which direction to grow in, or understanding which way we do not want to grow. Both open up new opportunity. Both offer choice for moving forward. Much of our existence here is becoming what we would perceive as more and more difficult as a natural course of our unwillingness to accept the truth of our existence. That we are not separate from each other. That as long as any of us are suffering, we are all suffering in some way. Do not allow these lies to take control of who you choose to be. I know who you are. You are magnificent. And you came here with purpose. And you came here to express a gift that only you can give. A one-of-a-kind, never to be seen again in 13.8 billion years of this universe's existence. How amazing are you? Much love to you today. Namaste. That's it. That's all. We'll see you again later this week for more meditations, both, of course, on the Help Awaken channel and on our Facebook page. We have 28 days to a new consciousness starting on Friday, February 1st. I believe it's Friday. You'll see another little short video about that this week, and then we'll be starting on that, like I said, towards the weekend. Again, have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. I hope this has given you something to consider, something to think about, and most importantly, to let go of the false and small ideas you have about yourself. Take care.